Hello, welcome back to Ycft. Summer slasher season is obviously full swing. I'm assuming, I have no idea when I'm releasing this one. I can't remember the schedule.
Who knows what day it is?
Who knows?
Right now.
This is the fifth one of these we filmed today. But we are talking about 1981's Madman. This is basically Axe-Wielding murderer in the woods around a summer camp.
It's a guilty pleasure.
Brief synopsis. It opens around a campfire and kids telling urban legends
stories
about Madman Mars.
Yeah.
And one throws a rock into the woods and it goes through the window of this house randomly in the middle of the woods where Madman Mars is there. So he takes revenge on the counselors of this summer camp.
Yes.
Hey Mars! Madman Mars! Here we are! Come and get us, Madman!
Yeah, it is very much influenced by Friday the 13th.
Yes, which of course came out only a year before.
Yeah, so it's obviously Friday the 13th took influence from Halloween. And mainly just in being a seasonal slasher. I'd say this is probably one of the first films to be a Friday the 13th ripoff.
Yeah.
But, who directed this one again?
Oh, well, he's a guy called Joe Giannone?
Giannone?
I don't know.
His mate, obviously, him and a friend wrote it, but they had to change a few things. But before we get into that, I'm going to say...
Oh, yeah.
I will say, overall, it is an inferior film to, Friday the 13th, I'd say. But it's got some really good kills.
Mm.
But there's one aspect of it that I actually think it does better than Friday the 13th. And that is their portrayal of the killer. Because they're not trying to hide who the killer is.
Mm.
We see him a lot. But just, I think, to try and save on budget and doing a full reveal of him, or saving the full reveal till later, we see him in little bits. So sometimes, when we've got torches, we'll see his full face hiding in the, hiding in the bushes and stuff like that. So having the freedom to actually see the killer, is really cool, and I actually really like that. And Madman Mars feels like he has a presence in this movie.
Yeah, I agree totally.
This is based on an urban legend, or was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yes. Okay.
Go into that.
So it's originally based, the idea was they were going to base it on a real New York urban legend of the Cropsey Maniac. Now, the biggest stumbling block they came up against was a film called The Burning, also had their eye on the Cropsey Maniac. And so they decided, well, obviously we don't want to do, we don't want to feel like we're competing and we don't want to, go up against you. So we're going to do our own thing. But just for a bit of context on that, the Cropsey was considered to be the bogeyman of, is it Staten Island or Staten Island?
Staten Island, I think.
Staten Island. I only know it from what we do in the shadows. Staten Island. Who was a murderer, who I think also an escaped lunatic from a local sanatorium, and he would kidnap children and lure them into the tunnel system under the sanatorium. So that was kind of the bogeyman, the Cropsey Maniac, and the Burning kind of did their own take on that. But yeah, the makers of this film, they didn't want to compete, so they came up with their own legend of Madman Mars. And do we talk a bit about the legend, the backstory of Madman Mars?
Yeah. If you want to go into that.
So I mean, obviously he's not based on a real person, but according to the campfire story, Madman Mars was a farmer. He lived out in the woods in this big old house with his wife and his two kids, and he came home one night, he murdered his wife, he butchered his children, and when the townsfolk found out about this, they tried to hang him from a nearby tree in the forest, but the noose, when they came back the next day to collect the body, they realised the noose had snapped, and he was nowhere to be seen, and so he's been lurking in the woods ever since, and the stories, as they do, it just turns into its own urban legend.
They left him there, hanging for dead. Next morning, when they went to cut him down, he was gone. It was then they noticed the bodies of his wife and children were missing.
Turns out he's pretty easy to find.
He's just in his own house. Yeah, he's just chilling in the basement.
He's very much animalistic. He looks more like a mountain man than anything else.
Yeah, he does, because they say, don't they, at some point before he killed his family, he was in some kind of brawl or an accident where his nose was taken away. Yeah. Nose was taken off. So yeah, it's something really inherently creepy about the guy. But yeah, I agree. I really like... I think one thing the film does well, because by the way, this is set totally at night, and it was entirely a night shoot as well. So good use of lighting, good use of Mars. And he's portrayed as this big burly guy. He has absolutely no dialogue. We only get a couple of growls from him, a couple of grunts, but little glimpses of him every now and then. Glimpses through the trees. And...
I really like there's a shot where one character kind of... The one who threw the rock, actually, I can't remember his name. He looks and he sees like a silhouette in a tree.
Yeah.
And he looks back and you see him just climbing down.
Yeah.
That guy, we see him constantly. He seems to manage to avoid all the carnage. He's the one that goes into the... He goes into the house. He's the one that kind of alerted him. But just completely unaware to anything that's going on up until a certain point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about the things that we do like. The soundtrack of this is amazing. Very synthy. He has a little theme song at the end.
Yeah.
Some of the kills, there's a hanging in it that is done so well. TP's easily one of the best parts of the movie.
I agree with that. Yeah, it kind of goes on for a while, and that's what makes it so uncomfortable.
The whole sequence with the car is really cool as well.
Agree. Yeah, I think generally the kills are well paced.
Yeah.
As well.
The movie as a whole, it's not a long movie either. It's got pretty good pacing.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's schlocky fun. In that sense, that is the best way. I know one of our viewers has just laughed because I've referred to something being fun. I know it. But that is the best way to describe this film. Like, it's not complicated in any way. The main difference as from Friday the 13th is there are actual kids at this camp. We're reaching the end, so there's not all the kids are there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that continues that Friday the 13th tradition of telling stories around a campfire.
Yes. Yeah.
And interestingly, all the actors used pseudonyms, didn't they? Because this was a non-union shoot.
This was a non-union shoot. And because the actors didn't want to get into trouble with SAG, Screen Actors Guild, their union, they all took on pseudonyms so as not to get into trouble. And so I think the most recognisable name of the movie is Galen Ross, who was also in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
So she's in this, and she's credited at the end as like Alexis something like that, takes on a totally different name. But yeah, this, as I say, it was filmed at night. I think it was like less than a 3-week shoot, and yeah, totally non-union. Just to give you a bit of context, like the working conditions.
They also had to paint leaves green like they did with Sleepaway Camp.
They did.
Because again, it was a real camp that they used for it.
Yeah.
Obviously out of season.
Yeah.
Also, the acting in this is not very good.
You never really know what's in my mind at any given time. You never know if I'm thinking rationally or if I've created some other reality that seems to fit, that seems to be normal.
All right, now we're swiftly moving into the things that
I kind of quickly followed. Even though we have like obviously screen royalty with Dawn of the Dead,
yeah,
I don't think she's very good in this.
All right, well, Galen Ross.
She's the best out of a bad bunch, I think.
So what's her character called? Betsy.
Yeah.
So she's, for the most part, kind of set up to be the final girl, and she's in a relationship kind of with TP.
TP is also quite good.
TP's quite good. Like, they have an on-off again thing. He's a little bit pushy, and she's not too sure she wants to pursue a relationship. And also the summer's coming to an end, so that, they're all aware that they're going to be leaving the camp soon. And so that's like an ongoing thing. Can the relationship last beyond the camp?
I'd forgotten this was a part of the movie at all.
Did you forget about the hot tub sequence?
Oh God, the hot tub sequence. It goes on for so long.
With his outy belly button. It's honestly, like, it's one of the standout scenes because of just how fucking weird it is and just how bad it is.
Well, the scene where they're all like talking about death and stuff.
Oh my God, yeah, we got some really fucking weird characters. Like, there's a whole hot tub scene with Betsy and TP, and it's almost like it plays out as a seduction scene and then kind of turns into a sex scene. But then there's so many shots of them just kind of like chasing each other in the hot tub, which is like, there's no dialogue in it. And like this really seductive song plays over it. Then we've got these other characters who are just chilling by the fire in another cabin.
I love to feel the flames devour the wood. Who says there's no beauty in destruction?
I don't think there's beauty in any kind of destruction.
And you'd easily mistake them for being high based on the conversation they have. I don't think they are high. It's just really bad dialogue.
Betsy also makes one of the dumbest decisions in the movie, though.
All right, so let's stick with Betsy for a minute. So, in some ways, she's really smart as a final girl. Some ways, she's really dumb. So, one of them, she sees Mars's shadow.
And not even just like a quick glimpse. Like she sees a full-on silhouette shadow of this big bulking man walking away as her friends are walking off into the forest looking for TP, who's not come back yet.
This is the bit where TP's going into the forest.
TP going into the forest.
And she sees the shadow of Mars, and she calls out to TP to try and alert him, and then she just instantly brushes off what she's seen. It's one of those moments of, you know, like, oh, never mind, it's nothing, tra-la-la.
TP? Nothing, it's okay.
Yeah.
So there's strike one against Betsy. Typically for a lot of final girls, she doesn't really realise she's in peril until
the end.
The very end.
But she does something smart where she gets all the kids on a bus.
Yes.
And leaves. Obviously, Mars attacks the bus a little bit.
Yeah, she also gets a shotgun.
Yeah, she gets a hold of a gun. She sees Mars later walking off with the body of one of her friends and decides to stop the bus, to get off, tells another of the slightly older campers to drive off. It's like, I'm sorry, why don't you just take these kids and make them safe? You know your friends aren't alive.
All right, so it's, yes, smart, herding the kids onto the bus with the instinct to, you know, GTFO. Smart. She's armed herself. Cool. Right. Not smart is abandoning the kids in her charge, leaving one of the kids to fucking drive the bus away, unsupervised, to go and see if her clearly dead friend, whose head she almost just clean blew off, could still be alive.
Yeah, I forgot she shoots one of her friends.
Accidentally, but yeah.
I mean, she's pretty close to death at that point anyway.
Yeah. But she basically, like, she shoots her in the neck, I think, or something, doesn't she?
That whole chase with her friend is really good as well.
It's really
like,
good.
Mars chasing her through.
Well, yeah, totally. Like, some of the other characters... I find it interesting what the film does with the women characters in this particularly. I said to you, it's almost like the Jeepers Creepers thing all over again. You know, Trish and Derry in the first one. It's like, are you Trish in that if you see something really bad, is your instinct to leave, get help? Like, you know, probably the smartest thing you can do. Or are you a Derry? And, you know, let's stay and see if there's any help we can give.
It's also a bit of Jeepers Creepers too. It's like, should you get off the bus or should you stay on the bus?
Yeah,
and I'm sorry, but she should have stayed on the bus.
Yeah, she absolutely should have. It was a dumb thing. And Betsy, I mean, obviously spoilers for the very, very end. Betsy doesn't make it.
No, she doesn't. I like her last confrontation with Mars.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't really call it a confrontation because she doesn't really put up a fight.
No.
She's prepped for it.
It's very easily
the
overcome.
reveal of Mars in that one coming out is great.
It is.
It is really good. I love his house.
Totally.
But yeah, and she gets like gashed properly in the face by his claws, like down to the bone. It's really good. So, but the chase with her, what's her friend called?
Ellie.
Ellie's a bit of a wet lettuce.
That's exactly what I've written down.
Yeah. But her chase through like the cabins, like into the kitchens by Mars.
Yeah.
Hiding in the fridge. It's a really, really good sequence.
Yeah, it is good. I like, in terms of the portrayal of women, we've got 3 core female characters. So we've got Betsy, obviously. We've got Ellie, who, yes, is a little bit of a wet lettuce. And we've also got Stacey, who is...
I forgot about Stacey.
Compared to the other 2, is more kind of like sexy, kind of confident, kind of sassy. I feel like Betsy is a little bit of a mix of Stacey and Ellie put together. Like, she has the sensitivity of Ellie, but she also has a bit of confidence like Stacey. So we've got 3 different kind of portrayals of women here, which I do quite like. Like, they're distinct enough. And we should also probably say, I guess, like, whenever someone goes into the forest, you're a goner.
Yeah.
We kind of know that.
Except the guy who actually kicked this all off in the first place by throwing the rock.
By throwing the rock.
What's it? Do you have his name?
It's somewhere, but it's...
Yeah,
we
keep constantly see him just in the forest, and he makes it into the house and sees something,
Yeah.
which we don't see till the end of the movie. And then we don't see him again
No.
until
Until literally.
but the very end.
Yeah.
He's the sole survivor.
He is the sole survivor.
Picked up by like the guy who runs the camp who
Max.
went off. Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like Madman Mars, which I really like because that is someone to continue the legend. That has to be a survivor in some way.
One thing that you pointed out, which is interesting when we were watching it, is like, every time someone goes into the woods, we kind of know what's going to happen here. And again, it doesn't curb the horror, by the fact like we know who the killer is. It's more of a question of when are these characters going to die rather than, if the characters are going to die and by whom.
It's like, the kids are safe.
We know the kids are safe. We're still in the early 80s, remember? But
we're not Fear Street 2.
Yeah. Having said that, though, Sleepaway Camp.
Off-screen kills.
Off-screen kills. But yeah, you brought up the fact that is he deliberately targeting the men? Because it is the men that are initially going into the forest.
Yeah.
The girls, it seems like he's leaving. Like,
for a bit.
For a bit, anyway. I think
my theory kind of went out the way when male characters started to survive.
Yeah.
But the first 2 kills are of men. I was thinking, like, is he on purposely targeting the people who are physically closer to him?
Yeah, that are actively like looking for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily looking for him, but actively like
it is turf.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
But that I think I'm wrong with that one. I think it's just the way
it's just the way it was kind of constructed, like that.
I think it was more like, right, what characters are initially going to go off?
Yeah.
Who would we send to look for these other characters? All right, they're the ones that are going to die.
Yeah.
I think I looked into it a bit too much.
Let's send the boys off into the forest first.
But he is basically like a hunter protecting his turf. Like, this happened because someone broke a window at his home.
Yeah, he's just come out like, what the fuck?
It's like, dude,
are you gonna pay for this?
One shot I really like. There's a thing about an old axe that's in a tree stump that some of the characters try and lift out, and it's maybe like a bit of a challenge, kind of like Excalibur.
Yeah.
Sword and stone. And Madman Mars comes in, just yanks it out.
Yeah.
Just to show how strong he is.
Yeah, a little bit of a grunt.
I really like that.
Yeah, I know. I enjoy this movie. The screenplay undeniably lets it down. Like, the dialogue is piss poor.
The acting is not good.
You can't really say much for the acting either. But in terms of the horror, in terms of the kills, I think in terms of the setting, that's where it wins a few more points, really. But yeah, arguably Friday the 13th is better. Specifically, like the first Friday the 13th. Because I don't know if the second one had come out yet.
I don't think it will. You got like Tom Savini behind the effects. It's hard to compete with.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still, I don't know. If you track it down, it's worth a watch, I think.
Is it tracked down? It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
We had no problem finding this movie.
No, not at all.
I don't know how well it did. It's very much like a cult classic, isn't it?
Budget was at $350,000. Box office was $1.3 million.
So it's a success then.
But it became more popular when it was shown at drive-ins in the 80s. That's when it kind of picked up a little bit of momentum. And yeah, so the kills are pretty good. I mean, like, we get hanging, we get... When Stacey's killed in the car, that's a decapitation, isn't it?
Decapitation with the bonnet, I think.
Yeah, we get 2 decapitations, don't we? Because her boyfriend as well, he's killed. Or by decapitation as well. Ellie's death, again, like, she's like butchered a little bit by Mars, but then ultimately Betsy sees her off with a shotgun to the neck or to the head.
Another dumb thing is, she doesn't reload... When Betsy goes into the house, she gets spooked by something and shoots the gun off. Yeah. But didn't reload the gun in between, which gives Mars the perfect chance. That I'm nitpicking there, but she had multiple times to reload the gun after a misfire.
Yeah, I think it's like, I still kind of like the ending, but the ending does pull it down a little bit as well. Like, I can't really forgive her for getting off the bus. And then also when she goes into the house to confront him, she's easily overtaken.
Oh, so easily.
And it's like he attacks her on her face, and he literally like claws most of her skin off down to the bone, which is really gnarly. And then he finishes her off when he impales her on these antlers attached to the wall.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, and he's got all the bodies down there as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, which we know
including of his family.
The guy that made it down there. We now know what he saw that traumatized him, and she kind of sets fire to the place, and
she like sets a candle over, doesn't she, or something? But Mars survives.
You see him just walking off.
Yeah,
walking off into the credits with the song playing.
Into the credits.
Beware the madman
it's just a really enjoyable film. I think it's an interesting watch if you're wanting to try and get into slashers, because this one is as much by the books as it can be, other than like its final girl situation.
It's a simple little slasher, you know, and it was still made in the very early stages of slashers too. You know, again, like talking about rules that have and haven't been established yet. Madman.
You see it again. As our prom night video came out, where we talk about that, it should have done.
I think so.
We might have already talked about like the establishment of rules, but obviously this came out. Prom night came out right after Friday the 13th. This had like a year to copy it.
Yeah, and is this also the same year as My Bloody Valentine too?
I think so.
1981.
Yeah.
So we had like quite a surge of, you know, low budget slashers coming out, and yeah, it was still, I guess filmmakers were still kind of like picking and choosing what are the rules here and what can we kind of play with.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So we're going to take the setting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I really like it. I'm a bit of a sucker for like campfire stories and like urban legends anyway. I love anything to do with that. So yeah.
I like simple killers.
Yeah, and Mars is
as simple as they come.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the guy don't speak.
Yeah, he just grunts, and there's definitely just some animal noises they've put in there. You got any more notes on this one?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not very.
There's
only
so much you can say for it, really.
Yeah.
But it is still like I would give it a watch, and it's fun to compare it to like other films coming out.
Yeah, it's interesting now we're getting into the era of the copycats. Ironic because Friday the 13th did that for Halloween.
Yeah, but
now we're seeing the copycats from Friday the 13th.
Halloween.
What was that line of Sean S. Cullen you were saying earlier today when we were talking?
There's a documentary I've seen or something where Cunningham cottoned on quite early that there were a lot of copycat slashers going on at the time. Like, you know, his movie Friday the 13th itself, you know, copying Halloween. But he said this line where he's basically like, a lot of the films that copied what we did in Friday the 13th, it seemed to him that they were copying the worst bits of Friday the 13th and not the better bits of Friday the 13th, which is like, you know, it's a bit of a shame in hindsight. But I like that. You know, he acknowledges that his film is far from perfect, but for whatever reason, filmmakers like, you know, Madman and My Bloody Valentine, like all these other slashers, they were taking the worst parts of Friday and running with them, rather than taking the better bits of Friday the 13th.
Varying degrees of success.
Yes.
What's your favourite Friday the 13th rip-off?
Yeah. And what's your favourite urban legend? That's what I'd like to know.
Urban campfire. What legend would you tell around a campfire?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you next week.